Some thoughts about learning. Our sector does a lot of learning. I don't think I've seen a large organization working in the sector that's not a learning organization. So why is it that if we do all of this learning, that we seem to repeat the same mistakes? So here are some thoughts, obviously, with looking at this with a project lens. So first of all, one interesting challenge is, what are the incentives and the consequences for learning or not learning? A few years ago, I visited and I met the people in one of the big management consultancies learning center. Great system. They would tag everything that moved. So a consultant could arrive somewhere, log on, and pretty much find out very quickly everything that there is to know about a subject, and all the consultant reports, articles, everything. Great, fantastic. And I said to them, what a great system. How do you get people to use it? And they said, oh, it's really simple. If they don't use it, they get fired. Good incentive. And what they said to me was that the only competitive advantage that they had was their ability to leverage and apply knowledge quickly. And that has always stuck with me. And I think if we look at our own organizations and we think, what is our advantage, our comparative advantage? What do we bring to the table? And I think knowledge and the ability to apply it should be part of that. When I ask many organizations about the incentives, disincentives for learning, or the consequences, and the answer is actually there aren't any, or it's very rare. If somebody, an organization has got some lessons documented and they don't use them and it goes wrong, does anything happen to them? Usually not. Somebody really takes some lessons and applies them and it goes really well. Do they get any kind of reward? Probably not. And this is something that I've seen in organization after organization. So I think this is part of the picture, but I think there's a bit more to it than that. I think in our sector, as I mentioned in another video, we often default to long reports. This sector is full of people with PhDs. 2 master's degrees, 3 master's degrees. There are very intelligent people, very hard-working and intelligent people in the sector. And I think many of our funding mechanisms require reports. And we seem to produce report after report after report. Sometimes I think I could save on gym fees if I just printed out all of these reports and carried them around. But I think, if I'm honest, how often are they read? By whom? To do what? And I'm never, if I'm honest, really convinced. And I think the producer of the information is producing a report and there's a requirement or something to do that. But what about the consumer of the information? And when we think about our projects, the consumer of the information, it might be you, it might be a grantee. But in what format do they want the learning? Do they want a long report? Or do they want a 5-minute video? Or something like that? And that brings us on to a final challenge with our learning. Think about your own lives. Forget work. And just reflect for a moment, what was the last thing that you learned how to do in your own life? Maybe it was cooking a certain recipe. Maybe it was doing something around the house. Then think, how did you learn this? probably you learned either through being with somebody and they demonstrated it and then you practiced it, or I suspect that many of you will have Googled it, found it on YouTube or whatever, had a look and used that. I learned to lay a floor in my house. The quotes were so high, I thought it can't be that difficult. I found YouTube videos, practiced, did it. And so if this is how we learn as individuals, why do we make this separation between learning at work and learning out of work? And maybe if we can find ways to bring these together, it would make learning easier for all of us. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Bye for now.